We're good.
Okay. Good morning. Welcome to the December 11th, 2025 meeting of the Administration Committee of the Agribusiness Development Corporation. I am the chair, David Hinazumi. Prior to calling the meeting to order, Lyle Rowe will explain how the public can participate in this hybrid meeting, which can be accessed by video conference, telephone, or in person.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, all. Your microphones will be automatically muted. When the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may click the raise hand button found on your Zoom screen to indicate that you wish to testify about that agenda item. The chairperson will individually enable each testifier to unmute their microphone. When recognized by the chairperson, please unmute your microphone before speaking and mute your microphone after you finish speaking. When the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may indicate you may want to testify by entering pound and then 9 on your phone's keypad. After entering pound and then 9, a voice prompt will let you know that the host of the meeting has been notified. When recognized by the chairperson, you may unmute yourself by pressing pound and then 6 on your phone. A voice prompt will let you know that you are unmuted. Once you are finished speaking, please enter pound and then 6 again to mute yourself. For both internet and phone access, when testifying, you will be asked to identify yourself and the organization, if any, that you represent. Each testifier will be limited to 2 minutes of testimony per agenda item.
Okay. I will take a roll call of the committee members present. When your name is called, please verbally acknowledge your presence and state who, if anyone over the age of 18, is present in the room with you. This also serves as a roll call vote. For each subsequent vote, I will ask if there are any objections or abstentions. If there are none, then the motion will be approved on the same basis as this initial roll call. Uh, let's see, Committee Member Watts,
Present and alone.
Committee Member Wicker,
Present alone.
and myself, David Hinazumi, present and alone. We have quorum for this meeting today. Members are reminded to have their cameras turned on and remain on screen during the meeting, especially during the vote, so the record will clearly reflect who was present at the time the vote was taken. It is now 9:13 a.m. This meeting is called to order. Okay, first item on the agenda, agenda item B, approval of minutes. There are none to approve at this time. We need to make sure we've got minutes at our next administration committee meeting. Moving on to action item C1, request for the administration committee to recommend that the board of directors accept a grant from Ulupona Initiative in the amount of $75,000 to fund temporary administrative assistance for agency staff. Is there any member of the public that would wish to testify on this matter?
There are no hands raised.
Okay. Is there a staff report on this item?
Yes, Chair, do you mind if I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. Here we are. What you're seeing is the staff submittal for the upcoming board meeting on the 18th. This request is a request for additional funding for an additional position to assist staff with administrative tasks. The current position, Secretary 3, is meant to be primarily for the board and for the executive director. But with the advent of so many more board meetings, longer board meetings, staff travel, minutes, etc., and just the normal business that some of the managers, myself, the project manager, and the senior executive assistant have. There's just a lot to get done, and it's become overwhelming. The previous two secretaries that we've had. One of them would come in at like at 2 a.m., 4 a.m. sometimes to get work done and stay well past 5 or 6 to get everything done. The need was there even prior to all of this, to the current workload. So we have requested, we did request a position funding from the legislature this session. I'm not certain. Wendy, you'll have to let me know if that made it through the first round of scrutiny. I don't know yet if it made it to the budget, to the governor's budget yet. But we have requested the position. This is temporary funding pending any approval we get from the legislature. And I would note that there are additional hurdles. There's still, we still have to, discuss with the ASO's office about, whether it can be done. But this is really the first step in this process, is accepting the funds. If we would accept the funds, DBED would hold on to them in a temporary account. That's my understanding. Wendy, correct me if I'm wrong. And then once we have the appropriate approvals, it would go into a trust fund, a trust account that would pay for the position that we would contract, I think, through a temp agency. I think that's all I have, but I'm available for questions if you have any.
Okay, Chair Watts.
Thank you, Chair Hinazumi. Question for Wendy. The staff submittal doesn't reflect anything we discussed. I thought DBED HR, this was exactly their problem. And that the position of your office was now to use the funds to purchase some kind of transcription software or service. But the staff submittal as written, I thought DBED HR, this was exactly what they were said was potentially legally there's issues.
So I've sent a copy of the specific text that was, or the information that was in the submittal to the ASO's office and to HR. And I have followed up, and I physically walked over to HR yesterday and was told they were on a retreat. They'll be back in today. And the confusion seems to be on if ADC is asking for a exemption from contractual services, which is not at all what we're asking. We are asking for the ability to provide or go seek professional services in the short term to get us caught up on our meeting minutes. But I don't have, Chair, something in writing from
No, I understood, but Wendy, the staff
HR.
submittal doesn't say anything about what you're talking about. The staff submittal says we want to hire a position, which was exactly what DBED HR said we can't do. Why is, I mean, I don't understand why this wasn't even, I believe what was supposed to be on the agenda was an approval to use the money to get some kind of service, right?
If I could I jump in real quick?
Well, I'm sorry, Lyle, let me just say, the staff submittal is saying that you want us to approve a position which HR said we can't do.
Under remarks and discussion, it notes that ADC will use the funds to contract with a temp agency.
Well, I understand, but Lyle, you guys are saying you want approval for a 1 FTE position. That was exactly what DBED HR said we can't do.
That's in addition to this. That this funding isn't for that 1 FTE position. The funding, the $75,000 grant funds a temp position in lieu of the position we're requesting, the proper position we're requesting through the legislature. So the 1 FTE position doesn't
Lyle,
request.
I don't think you were part of the discussion that the executive director had with DBED ASO
I wasn't.
and DBED HR director, which specifically said we cannot hire somebody to do a job that's already being done by somebody else. So I guess I'm just asking, the staff submittal is not consistent with the meetings that Wendy has had. And I'm just kind of curious why that is, because the reason for this meeting, Wendy, was because you wanted us to come to approve the position that you guys were going to be taking as to $75,000 to contract out for certain administrative services, not for a position. So I'm just kind of confused why the staff submittal does not. I mean, it doesn't. This is like the staff submittal is from like the previous discussions before you guys talked to HR. So I'm just worried that I don't. The admin committee is now you're giving what you're giving the admin committee is what we've been advised against doing. That's what my concern, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Wendy?
When I had further discussions with the ASO and with HR, they understood that we were in desperate need of transcription services because, as you said earlier in the meeting, Chair Kanazumi, we don't have the meeting minutes done yet. And other divisions and agencies actually use temp services or they contract out the transcription services for the minutes. So they understood that was a short-term need that we had that we could use those funds for. And I had asked for clarification on how to reword the actual submittal so that it would be in accordance to what they believed would be acceptable, but I have not received feedback. This was what we originally had put out. I gave other options of how to reword it, but I have not heard, yes, take option 2, take option 3. So I left it as the original option, waiting for the feedback from the HR and from ASO, which I still don't have.
Wendy, Kathy emailed yesterday
Yep.
saying that she would defer back to director's office for guidance, but it just goes back in a circle again. We
Yeah.
cannot contract out if a similar position is in place. And we learned that from trying to seek property management for the vacancy we had. So if there's anything similar, there was a lawsuit brought against the state exactly for this type of activity. So if the purpose is to catch up with like meeting minutes or transcription services, why couldn't we just get an off-the-shelf program and start moving forward with that?
We have tested the different programs and have not been able to make it efficient because of the length of the meetings. I think one of the things that would help in our meetings is if the board members would introduce themselves before they speak, because then the
No,
automatic.
but if you like a software like Otter, of course,
Mhm.
it reduces the time an individual has to go through edit, but they still got to go back, review it, accuracy, spell check, grammar. But if it's tied ahead of time and recorded, and all of the invitees are part of the calendar invite, it'll recognize because it'll record and transcribe.
We have tried this with a couple of meetings, but it did not work well. And we're also working with another agency who's trying to use a similar system and was told by IT that that would not be acceptable because the recording would reside at a third party and would not reside, at the individual agency.
Sorry, I gotta step away for a minute. Sorry.
Okay.
Chair, but so I guess Lyle, I'm kind of confused because um, did you guys meet on this at all before you drafted the staff submittal?
This is a rehash of the former submittal that was was intended for last meeting that
Okay,
we
because
pulled.
the reason I'm asking, Lau, is because the discussions that have been happening were not even, this is not even close to, this is like from the first discussion. So, you know, it seems to me that you folks didn't discuss this prior to this meeting, because Wendy was very clear. This meeting was to talk about using the $75,000 for the procurement of services or transcription services, not the approval of a full-time equivalent position, which DBED has advised us against doing. In fact, not advised, they ordered us not to do it. So I just, what the write-up here doesn't even say the word transcript, doesn't even say the word minutes in it at all.
I mean, my understanding of this was that this position was to assist with items that were much more broad than
Right.
just minutes.
So DBED's advice, well, DBED's counsel is that we cannot do this because it's a position that's already assigned to someone, and doing this could cause a lawsuit. So I don't know, Chair. I don't know, that this is not what we discussed.
Okay. Okay, so at this point, based on all the discussion that we had, or that we've had right now, I would think the best course of action right now is just to defer this. Based on what was discussed, Wendy, make sure that this, when this gets submitted again, either to our committee or to the full board, that this is properly addressed. We definitely want to, take advantage of this grant, and we'd like to extend, our great appreciation to Ulupono Initiative for making this grant possible, and Hawaii Community Foundation for, passing this through, administrating the grant. So yeah, at this time, let's defer this matter. Wendy, you've heard from Chair Watts and Member Wicker. Get this revised so we're not going to be in any violation of any HR rules.
And Chair, Lyle, I'll forward you the email so you can just kind of catch up what was kind of said to ADC.
Yeah, I'm not privy to those, so.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to our next item. Agenda item D1, informational items, review of fiscal year 2025 variances. Is there any member of the public that would wish to testify on this agenda item? Like,
Lyle, are there any hands raised?
you're on mute right now, Lyle.
Sorry about that. No, there are not. No hands raised.
Okay, so on this item, this is something we addressed at the last administration committee. We did see the budget to actual for year 2025. Relative to the size of the budget, there were enough significant variances that need some kind of explanation, how it's going to impact our agency going forward, any ability to get more funding based on our performance. So I understand there's no report on that at this meeting, but we need to make sure we follow up on this at our next meeting. Okay, agenda item D2, review of fiscal year 2026 first quarter financial report. Is there any member of the public that would wish to testify on this matter?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, so
The staff presentation, we do have a spreadsheet that we can share that Lyle
Okay.
can put up. and we can talk to that.
Okay,
That's
please
acceptable.
forward. Thank you.
Okay.
Ooh, can you make that a little bigger?
Yeah. Let me know when I need to scroll.
Oh, that looks good. So, Chair, to your earlier point, I think at the next meeting, we will include not just the actuals, but also the budgeted amount. And as you can see, the 161 is in fact the ledge appropriation, which is set annually. And then we've just divided it amongst 12 months. And I don't know if other departments use that differently, but the restriction of 10% is across the board. And those funds are set aside by BNF. So when we do receive a legislative appropriation, it is not for 100%, it's for 90% of that. The item that you see on the left, and that's a general funds. So on the left-hand side, you'll see an S, which is for special funds, and 312 is the number that we use for our revolving account. And this is for the delivery for water, which is spelled out there. And one of the things you'll see is the increase in August, and the way that we are recording is based on when we receive funds back. So it doesn't mean that we did not invoice in July and invoiced heavily in August. It's when the funds are actually received, and that's what's reflected in the month-to-month variances. Do you have any questions at this point? Like, I'm having a hard time seeing people.
Okay, for me, okay, so what this is telling us right now is that first quarter fiscal year 26, we're just looking in a vacuum right now because we can see what our revenue, I know when Lal scrolls down, we got our expenditures and we know what our net gain is for this first quarter. But it's in a vacuum because we don't have it compared to our budget. So we don't know whether we are hitting our targets for revenue, expenses, whether we're taking care of things timely, and that's why expenses will come at a later time. So we definitely need the budget to actual at each of these meetings. We spoke about that last time. Because that will guide us on how our performance is. And if there's something that is going amiss, we can catch it right away and make sure we can respond to it. I know this is a little tricky in terms of some of this being shown as actual, some of this being shown on an accrual basis, like you mentioned that the appropriation. I don't know if there's a way to make it consistent, so it is actual throughout and not just accrual. But I know in discussing, Wendy with you and Mark, it could become a little tricky. So that's just a suggestion if we can keep it consistent throughout. But the biggest thing right now is, seeing it compared to budget. Aside from that, do you have anything to share as far as how revenue or expenses are going through this first quarter?
So in terms of the revenue, we are setting at a good spot in that, the invoices have all gone out on time. One of the things that will be a little different as we move into the third quarter is the Yardi software system is completely operational. And a week ago, the first bills or invoices for rent for the month of January were sent out using the Yardi software system. And so we gave a sample invoice to all of the tenants with an explanation because the invoice looks completely different than what it has in the past. And one of the key components in building out the Yardi software system has been the reconciliation of prior months and prior years what was invoiced, what in fact has been received. And so there was a line item in terms of, back due invoices. So I expect that there will be a little bit of wonkiness over the next 2 to 3 months as, we work with the tenants to showcase, yes, in fact, we did invoice. They may send us checks that say we actually paid, but it wasn't recorded. But there should be a little bit of a clip up, I think, and that will be an abnormally high increase in the revenue just based on catching up for some of the back due invoices from the past. And, one of the deep dives of going into the Yardi system is been in reviewing every single one of the leases or licenses, which both Lyle and Allison and Carol did at a very granular level. The beauty of having the Yardi software is that the automatic bumps will happen. And so part of the numbers that people are seeing in the invoices is catching up to some bumps that were not passed on, increases in revenue. In a lot of cases, it's not significant. It's going to be like 2.5%. It's also been a way that people have responded, and there will be a line item or an action item, I think, in the December board meeting for somebody who was issued a revenue credit in theory, but the revenue credit was not applied. So we'll go through that with, the board. So I expect there will be some questions over the next few months in terms of, moving into the new Yardi system of invoicing and then catching up to have things that are very current. And so I think that is a wonderful achievement by the staff, and it was a heavy, heavy lift. And that was a big part of our audit, is just our record keeping and our invoicing. And all of that is pretty clean in the Yardi system. Does that answer your question? Sorry, there's a lot in there to unpack.
Well, it's not so much, of course it's important, what you just mentioned, but keeping an eye, make sure we're, managing things properly. Things are not getting out of budget if they don't, if there's no justification for it. We're taking care of things on time. I did speak with Kauai property manager, Allison Newstein, and she did share with me, what you mentioned about Yardi being up and running, and also the capability of it. So what I'm expecting, that I have not seen since I've been on the board, is a rent roll of all of our tenants. The basic status of their leases. That'll show whether we'll get like accounts receivable report. And overall, knowing how we are doing in terms of occupancy of our, of our lands, and seeing if there are areas that we need to put in capital improvements or other things that will allow us to fully, utilize all of the land that we have.
Mhm. So, Chair Hinizumi, moving forward on a month-to-month basis, then do you want to have those Yardi reports for every admin meeting of the rent roll, the AR, the AP? Because it's a lot easier to generate than it has been in the past, now that we have the system operating.
Oh, I would say similar to our discussion on our timing for financials. I don't think we need to review it every single meeting, but basically on that, that roughly quarterly schedule that we've set up for when, quarterly reports can be generated for financials, and then at that point we can review and see how we're doing as well.
We can do that.
Okay. Any discussion from committee members?
Just one, Chair.
Yep.
I'm still waiting for a response on the PMRF invoices. That we discussed at the last board meeting. And I have since sent a couple of emails and follow up and have not heard any response from either Wendy or Mark on the status on all of those items, and I would appreciate a response as soon as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks. So Wendy, you're able to how soon can you get that response out?
Mark, do you think next Wednesday is reasonable, given I mean, we're currently doing our annual report and we're running financials for the strategic plan, and we did the heavy lifting of getting Yardi up and running. But do you think that's reasonable, or do you think that's a
Yes.
little aggressive?
No, I was just hoping to get a report from the Navy because we've received all the payments, but I was trying to get like a nice report from them, and they were, and I just haven't gotten that yet. So I will follow up with them, and if I don't get anything from them, we will put something together and share.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
Chair, if you indulge me for one more question. Wendy, and I understand what you're referencing about the workload, but I think the reason I keep bringing it up is because I think it goes directly to what Chair Hinazumi is bringing up on the bigger budget and workload issues where I'm just trying to figure out from issues from 2023, 2020, and 2023 were only billed in 2025. But these budget issues are concerning because it's 2023 activity that's only now being reimbursed in 2025. But I don't think any of this ever came to the board at all. And it's $1 million plus, I believe, what I had accounted for last time. And in the last budget actuals, I think you guys had like 400,000 in there referenced. So I'm just trying to figure out like how we're budgeting and how we're doing things so we can properly account for them and not miss them. So this I think is very much in line with what you mentioned about the workload. I mean, we're trying to figure out where things are and how and this new with the new systems too, so we're not missing anything and all of that. Because one of the things that kind of red flag for me on the Navy stuff was the way they described the equipment that we were responsible for servicing. And so when they say words like catastrophic and all that, but yet work wasn't done until whatever, and we weren't, I just kind of concerned me how we're doing all of that. So that's where my question is coming from. But thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on Q1 financials? Okay, moving on to agenda item D3, review fiscal year 2025 budget and actual status update regarding fiscal year 2026 budget, update on active contracts and projects, agency budget planning for the 2028 fiscal year, committee to determine milestones to provide the agency's board of directors a report and recommendation for the ADC's 2026, 2027, and 2028 fiscal year budget matters. Is there anyone from the public that would wish to testify on this agenda item?
Chair, there are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. And just to frame this, we covered this at our last committee meeting, and the focus for having this as an information item is update on active contracts and projects. Wendy, do you have an update that you would like to share?
I have a presentation. So
Okay.
Lyle, if you would open the presentation, that would be great. So what I chose to focus on was some of the highest capital or expenditures or contracts that are pending. So if you'll go to the next slide, and I divided it based on business units. So there's land, distribution services, and food manufacturing. So in this most recent fiscal year 26 that we're in, $4 million was budgeted for the slaughterhouse on parcel purchase. We
And
are
then Wendy, sorry, not to cut you off, but you just remember that if there, as I see what you have on this spreadsheet, just remember that cue me before you have any discussion on anything involving the sale to Grove Farm, and I can I can step away before you get, and then just let me know when you're done with that item, okay?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So just going back to the slaughterhouse, we were given $4 million. A location has been vetted. We are in the process right now of doing a fair market appraisal of what the land is worth. And the state cannot pay more than the appraised value for the land. We're expecting that by the end of this month, the appraisal would come in so that we will know where we're setting compared to the budget. I'd like to move into the Grove farmland if you don't mind, or if you would like me to save that
Okay.
for another time.
No, hang on. I just got a comment on the slaughterhouse parcel purchase.
Okay.
What would be helpful for us is just seeing the basic timeline, or you updating us. Sorry, was this? I assume this was appropriation, the 4 million.
That is correct.
Okay, so as you guys do your status updates, let us know, when the appropriation was received or you got the green light to move ahead with the project. And then keep us updated on when these things are occurring. I don't know when the appropriation was made for the slaughterhouse. I don't know when this appraisal was ordered, but on any project we work on, we need to make sure that the proper diligence is known, what is going to be needed to complete the project in a timely basis, and that once we know the action items, that we are moving on it as expeditiously as we can. So that is one of my expectations for these updates. Okay.
Noted. Can I just ask for a clarification? When you say when something has been green lighted, what does that mean exactly?
Well, as soon as the agency can start working on it.
Okay.
Right. And let's not get hung up on on any wording I might use. I'm the board member on this, trying to get a handle of how this agency is operating. Okay, so it's not a matter of semantics. It's a matter of as soon as the agency can start working on it, let's make sure we're doing that.
I'm just thinking of how to present that, for all of the projects. And, it starts with what was budgeted, what was approved by the legislature, and then what was approved by the governor. And then we have a process that we go through in terms of a request for funds. And I'm thinking about, basically you're asking for a business plan, and at what point, we are doing a business plan or sharing the business plan with the administration committee. So I'm just thinking about the process. Okay. Can we go to the Grove farmland for just?
And then just a note for the record, I'm going to step away, and then Wendy, if you can just text me once you're done with this item.
Yep, I can do that. Okay, I assume that he's out of the room. So for the Grove farmland, a budgeted amount of $39 million was allocated by the ledge and approved by the governor. In this past week, the governor did release the funds for the due diligence process to happen. And our expectation is that by the end of the year, a letter of interest would be generated. And currently the Attorney General's office is working on drafting that letter. And we have concluded the appraisal. So the appraised value per acre did come in a little bit under the $39,000 per acre. It came in a little bit above the $35,000 mark, which is good. But as a part of the purchase, there are multiple surveys and reports that need to be generated that will use some of that remaining funding. Is there any questions from the administration committee in regards to the Grove farmland purchase?
Just when you think it's going to be completed?
I tend to be a little bit aggressive on this. I think by the end of calendar year 26. Lyle, do you think that's reasonable, given where we're at with the due diligence that needs to be done?
If Grove can move on the subdivision, yeah, some of the things that we're waiting on to do, we can't move on until we have at least a preliminary subdivision of the property, like our survey work, Alta. I assume we want to do an Alta survey.
We do.
I think we can move on the sorry, the ESA phase 1. I'm assuming there won't be a requirement to move into phase 2 just because it's ag land, but we'll have to see what phase 1 indicates. Kapaakai analysis, which we need for subdivision, I believe. Grove Farm took care of that. That was completed yesterday. I guess the short answer, I think end of calendar year 26 is doable. Both parties are motivated. And I think the state's indicated an interest in that money being released. So still a lot of moving parts. But I think end of calendar year 26 is achievable and realistic. But I wouldn't want to be held absolutely to that.
Thank you, Lyle. Another question. So the land we're purchasing, that's it's all vacant land. There's no current farming going on, or are we gonna inherit any leases or?
We will inherit some leases. All agricultural tenants currently farming cattle. I think there's
There's
a
cattle
couple
and there's
pastoral.
diversified crop.
Okay,
Yeah,
and so of the 1,000 acres, how much of that is already occupied?
I want to say 200 to 300 acres.
Okay, and then how does that work? I mean, they're gonna receive ADC leases at our current rates, or what's going to happen to the people who are already currently on the land?
Do you want to handle that, Wendy, or you want me to?
You can go ahead.
How we've handled in the past, there's typically an assumption and an assignment of lease from Grove to ADC, where we take on those tenants at the current on the basis of their Grove lease agreement. We would maintain that until the termination. I think Grove during the interest due diligence purchase period retains the right to lease the property, but I think they've agreed to only do so for like a term of up to a year. They've, I think, agreed to keep that to a year, short term, while we negotiate the purchase. But I want to confirm that.
Okay,
I think we'd want to confirm that because I believe that the tenants have a 6-month clause. So the current tenants would be given a 6-month notice that, you know, the licenses would be ending with Grove Farm. It's up to ADC's board and policy on how we move forward with that, you know, with the current tenants. But the tenants that are there are actively farming and they have active crop in the ground.
So when the okay, so when ADC does acquire the land, we'll have about. I mean, I'm assuming that the people who are currently there would want to reapply, but 700 new acres available in our
Mhm.
inventory.
Should be. I don't think there's
Let's
that much
just
waste.
verify that number and then come back at the next admin, because I don't have my file in front of me.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
I would echo what you just said, Chair Watts, that there is strong interest for the tenants to continue with ADC and to have a long license, because right now they are on, it doesn't matter what the term of the license is, it's basically 6 months notice that there would be a termination. So the ability to have a long license would be really helpful.
I think though, like yeah, correct, Wendy. I think though, like when we talk about the Grove Farm purchase, though, I think going forward, like anything else we've asked, I think the board's been consistent with is kind of just more matter of the fact communication. And so when we talk about the 1,000 acres or the legislature giving us money to buy 1,000 acres, I think we got to be more transparent about that too, right? So it's 1,000 acres, but it's not 1,000 raw acres, right? I mean, it's 1,000 acres, but of those 1,000 acres, we currently have active operations. There are currently active operations on, right? So, and we got to assume that these are, you know, active, so they would most likely want to retain their properties. So it's really 1,000 acres, 300 acres of that kind of already tied up, and then the 700 new acres that we're looking at. So we just want to make sure the full board understands like those things. Like we do already have active operations on those lands. So
Are there any other questions? Because if there are no more questions, then I want to invite Chair Hinazumi back.
that's all I
Lyle, does anybody else have their hand up? Lyle?
Sorry, they do not.
I do need to excuse myself. I have a 10 a.m. meeting.
Before you leave, do you have any questions?
No, not on any of these items.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Wendy. I'm back.
Chair, would you mind if I move into the distribution services contracts?
That'd be great.
So the first one that I have listed is the Wahiwa irrigation system acquisition. There are two parties that are involved in terms of who we are purchasing from. The first being Sustainable Hawaii, the second being Dole. The purchase for Sustainable Hawaii, the purchase sale agreement has been completed. The funds are in escrow and awaiting the continued due diligence that needs to happen during this time period. The purchase sale agreement with Dole is still being drafted at the AG's office, and it really is somewhat like a gift to the state. The purchase price is going to be like $10 to give you an idea of what we're talking about. And we are working internally. Act 218 has the Department of Land and Natural Resources taking over the Lake Wilson, and the Hawaii Department of Ag and Biosecurity would not own anything in this acquisition. However, at the time of the act, ADC was under the department, they were basically an attached agency for the Hawaii Department of Ag, and the Hawaii Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity is involved in that they are working with a contractor on a redesign and an upgrade for the dam. And then we would actually be taking over ownership for the dam, the spillway, and the irrigation system. So we, being ADC, are not requesting, we currently do not have the funds or the contract to be doing the design and the engineering work. That is being handled by DAB. However, they are short $31.5 million between the 21 million that they currently have and the estimates based on the design of what it would cost to bring the dam and spillway up to dam safety standards. So that is something I just want to put in the parking lot, because that is something we may want to testify in support of. In the governor's budget that was just released, he had included a line item of $15 million for the dam upgrades, but that still leaves a gap of 16.5 million. But again, that is not something that is in ADC's budget, but it is something that we are short, that we are definitely going to need in order to complete the dam upgrades. The last thing that I have in here is there is something called the Energy Technology Innovation Partnership Project, which is in association with the Department of Energy, as well as what used to be called NREL, which is the National Renewable Energy Lab based out of Colorado, went through a name change on December 2nd. Now it's the National Lab of the Rockies. And ADC did in fact apply for a grant to this project. We believe that we have the grant. We would be working in concert with the Hawaii State Energy Office in doing a feasibility analysis for the feasibility of having pump storage and hydro potentially on the Wahiawa Dam. Although the paperwork is not done, we do not have $50,000 in our pockets. But that is something we did apply for. We are waiting to have, the formal letter, formal acknowledgement of if we are given that, that would be an action item in the future that would need to come before the administration committee would be to accept the grant. So just putting that out there. Do you have any questions? Does the committee have any questions on this item?
No, none for me, no.
Anyone else? The second item that I listed was the Wahiawa Reclaimed Water System. We requested $4 million. That was budgeted by the ledge. It was approved by the governor, and this week, the $4 million has been released. The $4 million is the balance of the funding needed for us to complete the design. It is a project that is being done in conjunction with the County of Honolulu. And what it is having us involved in doing design work for the reclaimed water coming out of the Wahiawa wastewater treatment plant that is currently going into Lake Wilson. We would have a different system, and that's not been funded. We are just asking for funds to be released to complete the design work of what that would look like. And the ultimate delivery would be somewhere in the neighborhood of the year 2030. So this is a project that has had a long history with ADC. There's a lot of I's that still need to be dotted, but the fact that the funding was released for the design work is a huge milestone for ADC. Are there any questions from anyone?
Nope, no questions.
Okay. The third item listed under distribution services is the East Kauai irrigation system. And tomorrow, the Board of Land and Natural Resources has an agenda item, and the agenda is for the board to vote on giving a right of entry to ADC for the management of East Kauai irrigation system, as well as continued due diligence for the East Kauai irrigation system. We were given budget money to hire a water systems manager and 3 water workers. We have hired the water system manager and 2 water workers. We still have an opening and are accepting applications for the 3rd water worker. We have purchased equipment with funding that was given by the ledge in order to begin bringing the system up to usable standards. And the ultimate delivery of the system includes individuals that are on DHHL land. And the alternative to ADC taking over the East Kauai irrigation system would be that the BLNR would in fact decommission the entire system. And it was a request made by the users and by the Economic Development Group and by Kauai County that ADC consider taking over the system. So we do hope that we will get the right of entry tomorrow and for the continued due diligence. And we would be working longer term with the DLNR for an executive order for just that system. And the system actually runs through a forest reserve on Kauai. Are there any questions?
Yeah, Wendy, on this one, you know, what would be good to see, only because have a little bit of familiarity with this one. Important for us to be able to see the system and all the I guess beneficiaries of the system as you go through diligence, you know, condition of this, you know, system. It's going to take a lot to restore. So we just need to see all of this information as you go through diligence.
Well, first we'll try and get through the BLNR agenda tomorrow and see if we're setting good with the right of entry. And then we can certainly start building out the information that you're asking for. It is quite a system. And BLNR did put considerable money into upgrading the Wailua Reservoir, which is in active use. But yes, we look forward to sharing more information with the admin committee. Lyle, could you go to the next slide? So under the food manufacturing business unit, there was a budgeted line item of $350,000 for concept development for an entrepreneurial product manufacturing facility. And this week, the governor released that $350,000 of funding. That would be concept development that would be done by the University of Hawaii Community Design Center. And the funds would be divided, and I think that's yet to be determined on which islands or where those funds will be focused. Is there any questions in regards to this?
No.
Okay. The next major contract is the high pressure packaging contract, and the design build has been awarded to Ralph Inouye. The construction management is in process, and the operations and management contract is currently in procurement. So the award for the design build has been actually awarded and is in motion. We have been working closely with the Hawaii Community Development Authority in the process of the procurement for this contract, just due to the extensiveness of this contract. So basically it would be designing the facility, building the facility, and the purchase of the HPP machines to go into the facility. Do you have additional questions with that?
No, and Wendy, you can just, you know, go through your updates. Well, committee members can jump in if
Okay, I can't see, I'm looking at one thing and not everything. So huge contract that was awarded to the Department of Accounting and General Services is a $28 million award. That was a contract awarded by ADC to DAG some time ago, and it's for putting in the water and sewer and the infrastructure that will become the Whitmore Central Oahu Food Aggregation Facility and Hub. And we're expecting that that will be completed in November of 2026. One of the added benefits is DAGS will have a trailer that they will be using as an office during the infrastructure development, and that trailer will be given to ADC, which will be very handy as we go through the building and development of the complex for the future. So that's pretty exciting. And then the last item that I put on was the small animal slaughterhouse. We have been given a budget of $17 million. We have not moved forward with that budgeted line item in the paperwork because we've been focused on the site and getting the appraisal done for the site and hopefully getting an LOI and or a PSA executed in a timely fashion. But there have been ongoing meetings, with the small animal industry, as well as site visits to other small animal slaughterhouses to look at the best management practices, what kind of equipment that they are using, the flow of the work through the process, what kind of storage, what kind of mistakes they've made that we don't want to make. But that's a pretty significant and exciting part of the future of food production in the state. Then I have just a last slide that just asks if there's any questions.
Okay, so just, I'll just, reiterate, knowing the timing is important, making sure we are, to the best of our ability, we are working towards completing these things on a timely basis. So it's those types of things that we need to see for, for these updates to be meaningful. Like this last one, right? Small animal slaughterhouse, 17 million budgeted. Okay, so what now? When do we expect things to be, I guess what's been completed? When do we expect things to be completed? Just making sure that we are meeting any deadlines that we need to meet. And then one additional item, in terms of issue impacting, potential contracts or, our financial well-being status on the, to the extent you can share status on the NPDES permit, out in, on Kauai.
I'm currently working on a detailed brief on that. There is a hearing next week. That's not an item that's on the agenda for this week, but that's something that we can put on for the future.
Well, it's related to our, managing our contracts with PMRF, financial well-being, because there is quite the potential liability regarding it. So be prepared to discuss, especially since you're telling us there's a hearing next week. Is it the 17th?
It is the 17th.
Okay, yeah, our committee as well as the full board needs to be aware of what's happening. Yeah, this is a pretty critical matter for the agency.
We will take that to the board chair as a potential line item for the December 18th meeting to kind of give an update, but we'll have to see if council is also available to be in on that meeting. But that's ultimately up to the chair. But if you'd like to add that to the next admin committee meeting, we can also do that as well.
Chair, sorry.
Yes.
Just wanted to respond. Wendy, yeah, to echo Chair Hinazumi's concern, it is critical. I don't think we've received a update from council, a full update as to, where we were, where we are, what's the plan going forward. And we definitely haven't received anything in a timely manner to allow board members to digest it and to prepare questions if they have any for council. I really want to give the board an opportunity to do that. I think it's important for everyone to be able to understand fully the situation we're in. I think, secondly, it should be a priority that we update the board on where we are financially as well, with regards to the NPDES, right? I mean, where we are with billing with the council, where we are with, I think the fact that if this thing goes forward, I mean, I don't know that we would have the funds available to even cover what would be required of us of a finalized permit. And so, I don't know, was that included in the legislative budget or was that included in the DBED ask? And I don't even know, um, I don't know how we're going to pay for it. Any response to that?
I don't know if we can talk about that. If it's not, I guess we could talk about it under the agenda 3 as, fiscal year 26/27.
Well, I guess we don't have to talk about it here. We can get into it in a future board meeting. But to your question, about me as chair adding it to the agenda, I think goes without saying. It's something critical that the board needs to be fully aware of. This is not something that they don't have to know. This is something they all need to very much understand very clearly.
Agreed. And to your point, it's big money. And yes, it was included in the ask. And so far that is still included. The numbers that we're requesting are in the budget from the governor. But we can go into greater detail later.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So that concludes all our informational items. And at this time, I'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.